Again, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining our webinar. Today's Open Office Hour series session is on our partner spotlight with Celigo. My name is Alejandro Alvarez. I'm a senior manager and solution consultant with Crowe, and I've been hosting these sessions. Thanks again for joining. I'm going to hand it over to Joy Singleton. She's a channel manager for Celigo, who will take over the presentation and with her team show you a lot of the capabilities that Celigo has as it works together with NetSuite.
Thank you, Alejandro. Welcome, everyone. I hope you are doing well. And thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us and learn more about Celigo. Today, I will be joined by Deb Morgan, our Director of Solution Consulting, and Justine Bordeaux, an account executive for our Cloud Extend solution offerings. Today, I'll be introducing you to Celigo. We'll discuss the importance of automation and providing you an overview of how things really work. Then Deb will walk through Cash Application Manager and Salesforce integration app, along with providing an overview of how to build an integration. Then Justine will follow with an on-demand demonstration for Excel and email and Outlook integration into NetSuite. And stay tuned to the end, where we'll be able to address your open questions and register to win a $50 gift card. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Celigo, we've been long-standing in the NetSuite ecosystem for over 10 years. We've established over 3,000 customers in that time and have one of the highest NetSuite numbers of across the ISV ecosystem. Our founder and CEO, Jan Arntz, came from NetSuite and started doing small custom integrations. That quickly evolved into becoming a best-of-breed solution, offering integration apps that were pre-built and deployable quickly for Salesforce, Shopify, and Amazon. We are now offered on NetSuite Paperwork, our Salesforce integration app solution, and we extend that integration with offering integrations to Outlook and Gmail from our Cloud Extend team. You'll probably recognize a lot of names here on the list. You may have seen them as NetSuite case studies or be familiar with them in your day-to-day line of work. Before we begin, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about why integrations and the typical integration landscape. If you're using NetSuite today, you understand the importance of having a centralized hub where all your master data is stored. Celigo can help collect and organize that data across all of your different departments organizationally, and that's going to give you increased visibility, eliminate manual processes, and streamline workflows. You may have someone working on Zendesk today who needs to send service tickets to NetSuite. You may have someone in finance that needs to send expense reports into NetSuite. You may have your sales team that needs to send their sales orders and financial information over to NetSuite. Collectively, we want to be able to have your organization speak together across all business units so that information is stored in one place and can be accessed quickly. Today, we'll be walking you through our integration apps, specifically Cash Application Manager and Salesforce. I wanted to give you a little insight into how an integration app works. An integration app is a pre-built bundle set of integrations. They're able to deploy very quickly and out of the box. We've done these for hundreds of customers, and we can deploy them as quickly as 5 weeks with our group implementations. As you can see here for Shopify, this will automate the entire order fulfillment process beginning to end, where we can take a sales order in from a customer order from Shopify, sync that to NetSuite, fulfill that order, send the fulfillment details back to Shopify, along with the billing information, and we can even process refunds and cancellations. In the background, this keeps your inventory levels up to date and ensures accurate product information. That way, yourself and your customers have visibility into the entire order process. Now, today we've built these out for additional applications like Salesforce and Cash Application Manager, and I'm going to pass it over to Deb to dive a little bit deeper into how this actually looks in Celigo. Deb?
Perfect. Okay, let's see here. Here we go. Let's start sharing my screen. All right. First, before I do that, I will tell you that the Cash Application Manager is what brought me to Celigo 7 years ago. I was a former controller and looking for a way to automatically create my payments and apply them automatically against my AR. So it was a really big game changer for me. And then later, before leaving that company, I actually implemented our Salesforce connector. So I'm going to take a few minutes today just to show you an example of a couple of different solutions that we have, like Joy mentioned, that are pre-built, and yet we can still customize if you need that, and I'll be covering that at the end here. But first I want to start with the Cash Application Manager. For those that are familiar, you'll notice I'm sitting in NetSuite, and I think this was a big deal for me, is that all of my team's work is still being done within NetSuite. So I don't have to leave, I don't have to go to a portal, I don't have to download, PDF images to try to figure things out from my bank. And so the real goal here with this product is really, this is kind of what I'm going to show you, is what I like to call the day in the life of the accounts receivable team. But I'm going to take just a minute to talk really quickly about some of the really neat things that come with it as well. We're going to be talking about just really quickly about how we have some advanced settings that would allow us to even identify customers that are not matching names. They didn't include any invoice details. We also provide some pre-written reports, right? Your team doesn't have to go and run OpenAR reports anymore. These are just telling you what payments did not close out an invoice and left a balance open, or whether they were overpaid. There's just not any OpenAR. And so in addition to just these reports, we even have advanced features that are optional you can turn on that would allow you per subsidiary to, say, define either a dollar or percentage threshold. So like in my former company, we had lots of pennies left over for some reason. And so at the end of each period, we would have to go and create those journal entries to apply those. So we can automate that process for you. And again, you can pick a GL account and you can have a different percentage threshold or dollar threshold per subsidiary. We have something very similar on the overpaid. I don't see too many customers wanting to do this. Most customers want to leave that money on account for the teams to work, but we have some overpaids. We can even create a customer deposit, so that recording that due to liability for your customers automatically for you. And then the goal here really with this product, you're going to see when we get to the dashboard, is we want to get your automatic match rate up as high as possible. And we're going to show you how we use a lot of the bank information that's coming in to do that. And that's really the goal, is so that your team is only going to be managing exceptions. So on that note, let's just jump into the dashboard really quickly. And I'm going to just show you some of the things that your customers might encounter. And in this example, you have the ability to filter. For example, maybe you have different banks and different team members are working on different types of payments or different bank accounts. So this view, notice I'm still in NetSuite. This is just a UI that we've built. You can choose kind of what your team is looking at. And I'm just going to pull up a date range here to show you some of the things that maybe a team would encounter on their dashboard. And we're not going to have too much time to go too deep, but I want to cover some of the things that I think are really important here. On the left here, this is really, if you think about it, this is representing a bank that you might have selected, or bank accounts, and a date range. This is really telling you the story behind these payments. The left is representing the payment status. Our goal is to get as many of them graded and automatically applied for you. In this sample, you can see 85% of the work was done automatically. And then the teams are really just managing these exceptions. Some examples of exceptions are, we were able to partially apply the payment. Maybe the customer sent in more money, they only referenced a single invoice, and we can't find another one for that particular open balance amount. So in that case, the teams would just simply click on the transaction down here. You can click here to see which transactions fall in that category. They would be able to click into it, go into the native NetSuite payment, and simply decide how to finish applying that. And then as you're moving through the process and working through the exceptions, it will automatically update your dashboard. So this would eventually move, once your team has finished applying it, into the automatic applied status. Okay. One of the things we frequently see, though, is customer payments where we don't know who the customer is. That name doesn't match, the customer didn't include any invoice details. So those would fall into the unidentified. And we have a number of really neat advanced features. You'll notice on the right-hand side, this on the left was the payment status, but on the right is really how did Celigo identify that customer? So really the exact matches mean that the customer name match or the customer provided invoice numbers for us to identify the customer. But you'll notice there's approximate name matches. Approximate name matches are where Celigo goes in and we look. This customer didn't include invoices, but we were actually able to go in and find the approximate name match. And even without an invoice, we were able to go in and look to find a single open invoice for that customer and automatically apply that. So really, this is a really neat feature when customers are not including remittance details. Also, once you've actually worked something, let's say something comes in as unidentified like this one, the barbecue customer, once you've gone in and identified the customer, you would simply select them from here, hit save, and that would show up as a manual match, but it would also ask you, would you like us to create an alias for you so that the next time that payment comes in, we'll know who that payment belongs to. So really just kind of stepping back, if we think about really the goal here is to give your accounts receivable teams full visibility to everything about the open AR reports, but presented in a really nice user interface. There's just a couple more features that I wanted to point out here, and then I'll pause. You'll notice there's a few things. This is something you would rarely encounter. This is normally something that where maybe in this case you could see here euros was not a valid currency for the customer. So then in that example, they would go into the NetSuite customer record, add euros as an acceptable currency for that customer, edit and save, and that would run in and go through and create that payment and apply it. So error skipped is something that means that we did not create that payment for you. So you would just want to work those first, right? All of these others, we've actually created the payment and it's sitting there in a status that would require some assistance. So I don't know if there's any questions or if we should save them for the end. I just wanted to give everybody just a brief overview of really the dashboard before I continue.
No questions right now, Deb.
Okay, perfect. So you might ask, how did we make this happen? So Celigo works directly with your banks, different banks. We work with banks all over the world. And usually banks are generating one or more files. It depends, right? We see customers who maybe have lockboxes that they might be getting, you know, ACH payments, wire payments, or even electronic funds if they're not in the United States. And so it really depends on the bank. Some banks combine them all into one file, and that works really well as well. But really, we're automatically doing this. There's no manual effort required. Every prior day, at the end of the day, sometimes in the middle of the night, the bank will drop that information for us on a secure FTP that they provision for you on their server, and Celigo grabs that and then begins processing. So really the goal here is that your team comes in the morning and they're able to see all of the activity that occurred with that prior day's activity. So this is really just a really good overview of the Cash Application Manager. Before I move to Salesforce, any questions, any comments?
I think we're good. Nothing so far.
Okay, perfect. So I want to move over to the Salesforce connector. Again, this is one that was a real game changer for myself personally. And I'm showing you in Classic, we also support Lightning. But one of the really big things that we hear from customers is really we don't want to change the sales motion. You want to keep the sales motion the same on the Salesforce side. But you also want to prevent your NetSuite accounting teams from needing a Salesforce license. If you're having to come into Salesforce to get information, that's costing money, right, to multiple licenses. Also, double entry could mean errors. It could mean that things are not making it into the system or that they don't reconcile. So now you've got two standalone systems that would need reconciliation. So really the goal here is to bring all of the key pieces of information, even from NetSuite's back office, I like to call it the order to cash process, all the way back into Salesforce. So it's really helping provide the sales team visibility into managing an account. So I want to point out a few of these key features here. And these are everything I'm showing you is pre-built records, objects, custom fields. We've done all the heavy lifting. These are all done with a managed package install in Salesforce. and a managed bundle install on the NetSuite side. So not all the heavy lifting's been done for your sysadmins. So if you notice, I'm on a Salesforce account at this time, and then we have created a section down here called Financials. And this is pulling from the NetSuite customer record. If you go to the customer record in NetSuite, there's a financial tab. And this is really giving the sales rep a high-level overview of the financial health of this account. So in this example, this is a customer that is really out there. They've got an aging invoice. Their oldest is 113 days. So when I use this, I actually had a notification automatically going out to my sales reps so the collections team could maybe get them to assist in collecting. And you'll also see whether someone's gone on credit hold, what their limits are, what their overdue balance is, and any unbilled orders if they're using sales orders. So again, this is all coming in automatically from NetSuite. You're also going to notice if I come down here, we bring over accounts and contacts, but really it all begins with, say, an opportunity. An opportunity's been created, they go and they close that deal, and usually at close one, that's when most customers want us to come into NetSuite, they want us to create a sales order, and as soon as we do that, we actually bring this order record back into Salesforce. So the sales team can get really confident that that order's made it over. You can bring them over as pending approval. It can just go straight into pending billing, really depends on your needs. And as this order is moving through its life cycle on the NetSuite side, pending fulfillment, pending billing, we're updating that, okay? So that's really helpful. Also, if your accounting team makes a change to an order, it's updating that. This is mirroring your NetSuite order. We also sync, of course, keeping all of your items and products in sync as well in order to create those. But notice in this example here, this is an order that was billed. So that's telling me that there's some invoice, at least one or more invoices in NetSuite. Now this one didn't have a billing schedule, it was a single invoice event. So notice Celigo's also created a NetSuite financials object. So again, that back office visibility into the order to cash, because many times the customer might reach out to the rep. So in this case, we've shown an invoice was created. And initially this would have said open. This is matching the status in NetSuite, but as we've created payments, we're coming in and we've shown that it's been closed out. So really, if you're also, you have your choice, so you can bring over cash sales, invoices, payments, credit memos, refunds, deposits. So that really does depend on the customer's needs. We can also bring over any fulfillment records from NetSuite, and we can even create Salesforce assets automatically for serialized inventory. So as you can see, a lot of heavy lifting has already been done, and so no need to go and create all of this. And if I'm actually on an opportunity, but if I come back and I just want to show you one more thing, if I'm managing the account instead of just looking at an opportunity, notice I can also still see all the orders ever placed by the customer. I can see what their status is, and I can see all the financial records as well. So everything that you can see under the opportunity, you can also see on the Salesforce side. And then I don't think I want to take the time to show it to you, but just keep in mind we're seeing a lot of Salesforce CPQ, and we work really, really well with those objects. And then also suite billing. We see a lot of suite billing and zone advanced billing. So we really can do just about anything that's needed from the Salesforce NetSuite perspective. What I wanted to do next, if there's no questions, are there any questions or should I just continue?
You can continue. There's no questions right now.
Okay, perfect. So let's, I want to take just a minute, you know, in the beginning, Joey really emphasized, you know, we have an iPaaS platform, right? And you could see that we've done a lot of pre-built integrations, but the really nice thing about Celigo is because we have an iPaaS platform, it's really frequent that I would say probably 60% of all of my Salesforce to NetSuite integrations would even require an additional supplemental flow. Maybe they're using the service desk component, maybe they're using field service to manage inventory, pulling inventory information in and work orders and expensing and doing inventory adjustments. So we really see even custom objects that folks have built. As you can imagine, Salesforce, much like NetSuite, is really easy to customize. So I wanted to take just a minute to show you just how easy it is. Mm-hmm.
Sorry, before you move on, there is a question, and the question is if you can sync opportunity to opportunity from NetSuite to Salesforce.
We can absolutely do that.
Perfect. Thank you.
We can sync just about anything, opportunities, quotes, even CPQ quotes. If you're using CPQ, we even occasionally see a contract record in Salesforce or even a subscription record.
Perfect. Great.
Fantastic. Any more questions? Okay. Well, I want to just show you really quickly. Let's imagine for now that the base connector that we've just talked about is going to meet their needs. But let's say that they've decided that for the field service, let's say they're using Salesforce cases, and they want to notify the accounting team by creating a case in NetSuite and flag it maybe as requiring like an RMA or something. So I wanted to just take a minute to show you how user-friendly our platform is. So I'm going to stop sharing for just a minute so I can switch to my different NetSuite instance, and then I would like to show you how to build one of those yourself. Really, really easy to work with. Almost there. Perfect. Okay. I'm going to share my screen again. So using that example, I'm going to come into my Integrator IO dashboard. Now, Joey kind of talked a little bit about it, but you can go to the marketplace here. You can see all the integrations we offer. You're also able to come into to see what templates might be already available for you, so you never have to start from scratch. But for this demonstration, I want to show you how easy it is for us to add a supplemental flow. This might be something you could even do yourself. I'm going to click on Flow Builder. And really think about a flow as, what's my source system? So in this example, let's just use Salesforce case. So I'm going to take a Salesforce as my source. And what's my destination? Let's say NetSuite. So once you've identified your two endpoints, now if this was the first time you're doing something, you're going to set up a new connection. You'll put in your credentials. In NetSuite, of course, we want two-factor authentication. But since I've already got quite a few of these, I'm going to pick one that I already have. So I'm going to come down here and pick my Salesforce credential, and then I'm going to pick my NetSuite credential. So now I have these two credentials connected. So now I can actually see all of the objects that are available or records available in your endpoints. Maybe you have custom ones. And I can also see all the fields that are available on your records. So really the first thing we're going to do here is I'm going to just say, what would I like to take from Salesforce? So let's just say it's a Salesforce case. You can choose whether you want a real-time flow or a batch flow. If it's something that's timely, I would always recommend real-time. If it's something like our financials that are just showing you all the back office, maybe you want to schedule that. Maybe you want to run it every 15 minutes or so, but it's your choice. And then notice when I put in my Salesforce credentials, it's going to display my objects or records that are available in my Salesforce. So in this one, I'm just going to pick case. Now, when you're creating this, you could even filter it. Maybe, I mean, I don't have any criteria set up on my cases, but maybe I want to say I would like to filter where type, maybe my case type equals RMA, something like that. So just know you can decide. You don't have to bring all cases, for example, over onto NetSuite side. So now I'm going to save. And now I've said, what would I like to create on the NetSuite side? Again, it can be a standard or custom object. Our record. And now I'm going to go in and say, I'm going to call this my NetSuite case. And this is where you can pick, again, your credentialed NetSuite is going to display your objects. I'm going to pick a NetSuite case. And I can decide, do I just need it one time? Am I just pushing it over and then the rest of its activity begins on the NetSuite side? Or do I need to add or update? And so if you're going to be making changes to a case, for example, that you need to continue to push over to NetSuite, you would want to do an add or update. And for this one, I'm just going to do add. And once I've gone in and I've said my source is Salesforce case, destination case, the very last step is going to be where you're just going to decide what fields do I need to bring over. So this is very unique to Celigo. It's called the NetSuite Assistant. So anytime we are mapping into NetSuite, because I picked my destination object as a case, it would bring up your preferred NetSuite form. So all the records have a preferred form. So this is my NetSuite preferred form. You could easily change that as well. But really, what you're going to do now is maybe we're going to pick some created dates. going to come over here and pick the incident date. And you would simply go down and make sure that if you're doing NetSuite that you've grabbed all the ones that are required. But essentially any of the information you want to exchange between the two. And once you've done that, and by the way, you could do that at the header level, the line level, or sublist level for any record. So any of these fields, you just simply click on it. And as you can see, it populated. So once you've done your field mapping, you're going to hit save and close, and then you're simply going to turn on your flow. And from that point forward, it's going to try running it now, but of course I don't have any real data, so it's not going to process. But essentially now, anytime I created a new case that, let's say, met that filter criteria, let's say it's a type equals RMA, then that flow would run. And if you did it as a real time like I did, then you'd be able to see that. So it's just to give you a quick flavor of how easy this platform is to work with. Any questions on that so far? Any questions that I can help with?
No questions at this moment. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay.
So we can pass on to Justine now. Thank you so much, Deb. Justine is going to speak to Cloud Extend specifically for Outlook, Excel, and G Suite.
Yes, fantastic. Thank you, Rico. Thank you, everyone. As Joy and Rico mentioned, I work here on the Cloud Extend team at Celigo, and our apps are more end-user driven and built to really make you work faster and more efficiently. So I'm going to share my screen here, and I first want to start with talking and showing you about our Cloud Extend Excel for NetSuite application. So this app really allows users to work with their NetSuite data in Excel. So you can pull existing data from NetSuite into Excel, make your changes really quickly and push it back. And you can also create new NetSuite records directly from Excel. All of this can be done really quickly. You can use the power of Excel. You can really start and finish in Excel. So it's a really, really cool tool that allows you to just make your life easier and make yourself more productive. So I'm going to give a couple examples here about using vendor bills and journal entries. And then I'll also talk briefly and show a quick demo on our other two applications, which actually integrate NetSuite with Outlook and G Suite. So here I am in Excel, and first I just want to talk a little bit about how this is laid out here. So our app is a Microsoft add-in that just sits directly in Excel on the right-hand side. And really the backbone of this application are these templates. And all a template is the record type you want to work with and all the fields that you want to work with. So the first step is to really build out these templates. And then once you build them out, you can share them with other users if you want to, and they'll always be saved to your Cloud Extend application. And when you run a vendor bill, like I have, when you run a template, like I have in this case with this vendor bill template, in this case, I added data already, which I'll get to in a second, but all that would happen is this blank template would populate here. And the first row, if you look here in the formula bar, this is how the mapping is happening between NetSuite and Excel. We simply white it out here just in hopes that customers won't come here and make changes because it could break the template. No big deal, you can rerun it, but we do that in hopes that that doesn't happen. A really fantastic feature of our app is that we have this reserve column, which is really a real-time error resolution. So let's say you're uploading 30 new vendor bills, and I'll give an example of this in a second, and one has a problem. Well, that one will come back here in red telling you what that problem is, and all the other ones will update successfully. So that's a huge time saver, having that real-time error resolution there. In addition to that feature, we also provide all of the valid values in in NetSuite here in Excel. So here I am in the expenseless account column, for example. And if you look in the app on the right-hand side, we have this View Expense List Account Values tab now. And if I click on this, this is actually going to provide me with all of the valid values in NetSuite. So I don't need to go to NetSuite to find any of this information. It is all here. I think I said it earlier, you can start and end in Excel, which is fantastic. So I'm going to give an example here of a bunch of vendor bills that I want to create. So all I did was I ran my vendor bill template, and right before this call, I entered in all of this information. So I entered in the entity, transaction date, posting period, etc. And you can see here that there's a little yellow notification, and I actually purposely am going to throw back an error. So I put something in here that's not valid. We're trying to tell you, hey, something's wrong here, but I just want to show that real-time error resolution once I go to update these vendor bills. So let's say I put in all my information here, and I want to create these vendor bills in NetSuite. When I hit this update button, and I hit upsert all records in this case, because I want to create all of these, it is going to make a call to NetSuite, and it's going to create, in this case, these 13 vendor bills. And in a second, I'll know which ones are successful because the internal ID will come back in green for the successful vendor bills that were created. And in this case here, these top row 3, 4, and 5 should come back in red in the reserved column, and it should tell me something along the lines of HHHH isn't a valid value for expenseless location, which you can see here. So now I know that this vendor bill has not been pushed to NetSuite because there's an error here. And in this case, this is one vendor bill with 3 lines on it. That's why it's coming back 3 times. And now if I wanted to quickly go ahead and fix that error and send it back to NetSuite, I could on the fly. And here you can see all of those vendor bills were just created and really, really, really quick in a short amount of time there. So that's just one example of how to create new records. There's so many use cases for this. You can create sales orders, purchase orders. We support 85% of the NetSuite record types, including custom records. So it's a really powerful application. I want to give one more example of journal entries. This is an extremely popular use case simply because journal entries are typically pretty large and working with them natively can be painful at times. So what I want to do here is I actually want to pull in an existing journal entry and I want to make a bunch of changes to that journal entry. A really quick way to pull data in is by using the internal ID. We actually support 3 different ways of pulling data in, one being internal ID, another one being this filter here where you can set rules, and the last one being actually the ability to pull in saved searches. So in this case, I'm going to use the internal ID. So all I did was I went into NetSuite and I copied and pasted this internal ID here. I plugged it in. And now on the bottom of our app, you'll notice this refresh button. When I click this refresh button and then I click refresh once more here, just to confirm, it is going to make that call. It's going to find that journal entry data based off of that internal ID. And now I have this journal entry here in Excel. So really, really quick way to pull the data in. And let's say I need to make changes. Let's say I need to change the class from seasonal sales to something else. I made a mistake on that journal entry and I need to fix this. You can come here, use the power of Excel, drop this down. Now I can hit update. In this case, I can do either or. Let's just hit upsert selected records. Now it's going to push this updated journal entry to NetSuite, and I'll know it's successful by that green internal ID. Once it's successful, it will come back with that green notification there. So those are just 2 examples of how customers use this application. In addition to pulling in data to make changes to it, you can actually pull in saved searches as well to just use for reporting purposes. So maybe you have a saved search that you want to drop into Excel, and then maybe you have another tab with pivot tables that you want to refresh. We also give you that ability here to pull in saved searches, which is really nice. So that's just a quick overview that I wanted to give you guys here on the Excel piece. Let me pause before I head over to our Outlook integration and see if there's any questions on the Excel piece.
No questions right now.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. So let me head over to Outlook. And we also have an integration with G Suite. I'm going to show Outlook today. It's a very similar application. So pretty much everything that I'm showing you here in Outlook can be accomplished with our G Suite integration as well. But in short, our G Suite and Outlook applications gives users the ability to sync emails, calendars, and attach OneDrive, SharePoint, or Google Drive files and folders directly to NetSuite records. My manager says if it isn't in NetSuite, it didn't happen. And these applications really help to bridge the gap between Outlook or G Suite and NetSuite. So for example, I'm an account executive, I'm a customer success manager, maybe I'm in accounts payable, and I'm receiving important conversations with my customers, my prospects, et cetera, in Outlook. Well, it's really important to get that information into NetSuite for that full 360-degree visibility. And that's where our app really helps. So I click on an email. This is something that's important to have in NetSuite. I use our application on the right-hand side to find relevant records in NetSuite. So right here, we're doing a search, and we're actually looking for matching records that we find for you, and we pull them back here. And then you can decide, okay, I want to save this to the contact. Maybe I want to save it to a support case. We actually support 18 different record types currently that you can attach these emails to. Scrolling down a bit, you also have the ability to include attachments. And I'll get back to this new record section in just a moment. So here you can decide, okay, I want to save this attachment along with the email as well. And then scrolling down a bit further, if we didn't find what you were looking for in that auto fetch, so if we didn't find what you were looking for here in this section, you can come down to add more records and manually search for something you want to attach to. So let's just say, you know, I want to save this to a opportunity, for example, as well. I can come here, type part of the title of the opportunity that I want to attach it to, check off that additional record, hit done, and now you'll notice that I have the contact, this opportunity, and also this opportunity checked off. When I hit attach, which I'm actually not going to do right now because I use this email for demoing a million times a day, two things will happen. Number one, we will flag the email for you. So now you can look in your inbox and see which emails have been saved to NetSuite and which ones have not. And then, of course, we will save that email directly into NetSuite. And all of these emails and calendar events will save under the communication tab. Whoops, let me go to the right one here. Under the communication tab, under messages. So that same place, if you're sending any emails out of NetSuite, we're going to save everything right there as well. So now someone can go to this tab and see all these important conversations that they otherwise wouldn't have access to directly in NetSuite itself. So we make it really easy to get that information here. We do something similar for calendar events. So imagine you're creating an event and you're meeting with a customer or a prospect. And now you want to link that to an opportunity or, you know, whatever record type you want to attach it to. It's a very similar concept here. You would create your appointment just like you normally would, use our app to decide where it is you want to save it in NetSuite, save it, and send your event. That will also store under that communication right under activities here. So really easy to get that information in. And then the last piece is I mentioned being able to attach OneDrive or SharePoint and or Google Drive, depending on if you use Outlook or G Suite, files and folders directly to NetSuite records. Key here being it does not consume storage space. So I'm on a contact record, but this could be any record. Maybe it's a project, maybe it's an inventory item. And you'll have this Cloud Extend Files tab here. If you're using G Suite, it would actually have another tab called Google Drive, but same, very similar concept. And here you link your OneDrive and or SharePoint. I have both set up in this account. And from here, I can now attach these files and folders without consuming storage, and it's all in real time. So somebody updates something in SharePoint, it will update on the record. So it's also, you know, a great way to keep everything in the source of truth, which of course is NetSuite. So I've attached a bunch of files here. I have some folders attached, and I can click attach from OneDrive. This pulls up my file picker. I decide what it is I want to attach. I attach it, and now everyone can see that directly in NetSuite. You can also drag something maybe from your desktop or browse your files, drop it into OneDrive, put it wherever you need to put it in OneDrive or SharePoint, and then attach it to the record as well. A really great feature of this app is that we don't make you set up any additional permissions. Everything is respected of OneDrive and SharePoint or Google Drive. So if somebody doesn't have access to this Socially Savvy Studio 1 folder in SharePoint, let's say, and they try clicking on it, they will not have, it'll tell them they don't have permission to view that, just as if they were in SharePoint itself. So everything's respected here, which is really great. So that's really the OneDrive SharePoint piece. And again, very similar to the Google Drive piece, and our G Suite application in terms of emails works the same way. So it's a very similar concept there. So these apps are really, really great for sales teams, customer support, anyone that's really customer facing. We actually have a lot of individuals in finance using this as well, if they're, you know, speaking with customers. So really cool apps here, and just really makes your life a lot easier, gets all that information into the source of truth NetSuite. So that's what I wanted to cover today. If there's not any questions, I'll hand it back over to Joy to do.
Justine, there's actually one. Sorry, there is actually one question going back to the Excel integration, and the question was: is there an undo option? Sometimes our users get a little bit overzealous when changing data.
So there's not an undo button. However, 2 points I want to make. Number one, you're logging in with your NetSuite credentials. We respect all the permissions of the role you're logging in with. So if you can't do something in NetSuite, you can't do it here. Second thing is, if you accidentally change something, as long as if you just save this file, you can come back to it, make the change of whatever you did wrong from the get-go, make that change and then send it back. So if you're just, you know, as long as you save your files is what I'm trying to say, you can, you know, fix that error pretty quickly. So there's not necessarily an undo button, but there's definitely precautions you can take to make sure that you don't, you know, make some huge change to something that's incorrect.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to stop sharing. Thank you guys so much. I'll hand it back over to Joy.
Well, that will conclude our time here today, but we hope you leave today with a better understanding of how Celigo can help streamline your business processes across the organization. And we hope that we've demonstrated how easy it is to leverage Celigo's platform and products for IT users and business users alike. You don't need to have an extensive IT background in order to interact with our tools and services. And once they're up and running, it can be fairly easy to manage, maintain, and make changes on the fly. I did want to thank you for attending the entire presentation. And so if you go to www.celigo.com/promo/Crowe, you can enter to win a $50 gift card. And appreciate your time today. Were there any last questions before we conclude?
No questions right now, Joy. But let me see. There's something in the chat. Let me make sure. Okay. No, we're good. Yeah, no more questions. So thank you, Joy, and thank you, Justine, Deb, Rico, for your excellent presentation today. I want to thank our customers for joining our webinar, like every week you do, and look forward to future sessions. And again, have a great rest of the day, rest of the week, and thank you for your participation.